Okay, so we are back. I went ahead and went offline just to kind of fix that myself because I don't think you would really care to see me go through my files trying to find the right hair and get it in there. Just be a waste of time for both you and I. Okay, so now that we've got the right hair and it should be within the file, it's actually it was just the wrong hair model. I was going to use that first hair model, the R1 hair model at first, but I switched to this one, but forgot to swap out the textures for the tutorial's sake. So looks like we're good to go. Okay, so here we are. We have the hair. It's a simple hair model. I'm gonna take away the texture so we can get a better look at it. It looks like it's simple because it fits around the cap. It'd be like as if placing a helmet on top of the head. I'm just pressing Alt here and clicking with my left mouse button to rotate around, and I'm gonna hit Alt Shift and my left mouse button to kind of pan and zoom in a little bit with my middle mouse. And I'm just going to kind of pan around and get an idea of what it looks like. You can just, if you see it as a helmet, that's pretty much what it is. The only part that's going to be a little different is this strand of hair. Now, this strand of hair right here, it's going to be a little different as far as weighting goes, unlike the rest of the hair, where more likely it's going to be sitting on the B45 bone. Whereas this one's going to be on a B46, and I'll explain that later what that means, but a B45 just pretty much means it's going to stick to the head. B46, which means it's going to be on a special type of bone that allows it a less weight, so the B45 pulls it, but doesn't pull it as much, and you'll see what I mean when we see the in-game results. Okay, I always have a thing for hitting Control 1, and this is actually the viewport for let's see. I don't think it has it here, does it? View all, okay. Viewpoint, here we go. And Control number pad 1 views the backside of a model. For some reason, Neverwinter Nights 2 uses this viewing angle for all of its models. Every other model from every other game I've ever opened before in the past uses a front side. This is the only one that uses a reverse side. Dare to be different, and they did. As we all know, Neverwinter Nights 2 is different to begin with, just simply because it's one that's very highly customizable. Food for thought, those who don't know this, a lot of game design courses use Neverwinter Nights 2 as a reference for their teaching courses so they can teach how to program a game, because that game is pretty much fully programmable just by learning C++ and a lot of other minor codings. Anyways, I digress. So I have a constant habit of pressing Control number 1. If you see this happen, that's Control 1. Now, as I said, Neverwinter Nights 2 uses the backside of models, which means every model we import, we more likely have to turn around. Now, if I press 1, that usually turns to face the front side. And so I'm going to press Control 1 again to go to our backside. To change this, all we do is go into object mode, and I'm going to go into solid object mode, or you can just press tab. Okay, and I'm going to go and click rotate and just click it twice. If you click it once, remember you're going to have to move it like that, but if you click it twice, you can go into the actual properties here and just click rotation on the Z-axis, 180, 180, hit enter, and there, now we're facing the proper side for the game to render this hair facing forward. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and hide this. Don't need it at the moment. And I'm only doing that just so I can make the tutorial easier to follow. You don't have to hide it. Okay, so we're going to import the first thing we were going to import is the Neverwinter Nights 2 female head 01 model. Of course, if you don't know where to find that, you can always find out where to get those in the first tutorial. If you just need a quick reference, it should be under your data folder in your Neverwinter Nights 2 installation section. Okay, so import Neverwinter Nights 2. We are going to find an armature, and we are going to remove doubles. We don't have to click it to head model, even though it is a head model. The reason why we don't have to click the head model is because it's not being used for the purpose of exporting as a head model. So here we go. We have it in our main folder, our hair tutorial folder called PHHF_head01. So I'm going to double click that. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pan here. Get a little zoom, pan. Okay. So here it is by import. If we look over to the right here, we'll see the skeleton, which is what it imported with. We can go ahead and hide that and then turn it off here in the selector so we don't accidentally show it and then move it. We don't actually need it at all. at least not for this time. Okay, so we're going to delete the L-head 01 LL2 model. If you don't remember what those are for, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter because we're not going to need them, and it doesn't serve us no purpose right now knowing it. So we are going to keep the eyes. Actually, no, we're not going to keep the eyes. I'm thinking of a different tutorial. Go ahead and delete those eyes. Okay, and we'll keep the head and the calls because we need those for export. All right. So as you know, this head is going to be our base reference model. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit Tab and A to deselect everything. I'm going to click A again, select all. And for the sake of just making it smoother, and you don't have to do this, I tend to do this because it just helps me feel a little better about where I'm placing things. I'm going to go to Subdivide Smooth. Now what that's going to do is it's going to subdivide all the edges of all the polys here, and it's going to make them even sharper. But it also smooths out the mesh itself, so it just looks more smoother. I don't know, maybe it's a mindset thing, but I like doing that because I feel like it helps me better determine how to fit the hair or the hat on the model. Okay, so subdivide smooth, you'll see what I mean here. Now that we click A, we see it doubled the polys, or it subdivided them, and it also smoothed it out. So if we click this way on tab, yeah, we'll see the difference there. Okay, now that doesn't matter so much because in the end we're going to delete this mesh, but it just helps me reference a little bit better. Now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my hair. Now, sometimes when you import the hair, you might get it down here. It might be even at the very base. Sometimes it's up here. Sometimes it's way big. And this is where you have to kind of decide on your tactic and how you're going to get it down there. But pretty much our first step is we're going to get the hair onto the head. Okay, so by doing that, I'm going to go into scale mode, or not the scale mode. I'm going to go into wireframe mode by hitting Z, or you can go down here too and just go to wireframe. Okay, and as I've told you before, you always want to operate using the orthographic view, not the perspective view. Orthographic by hitting number pad 5, or perspective, orthographic. Orthographic is always going to help you get a precise setting on top of most things that you model. And actually, there's no other way to model other than orthographic view, if you ask me. Perspective view is just so you can take some cool screenshots, do some cool look around angles, and maybe access some of the features that don't let you access, that you can otherwise access in orthographics. But yeah. So okay, I swear that word's gonna kill me. I'm gonna hit G for grab. As you know, we have 3. I don't know if I told you this, but we got G for grab, S for scale, R for rotate. Now, rotate works in the matter of which you're viewing. If I hit R, rotate here, it's going to rotate that way. Scale doesn't matter because it scales all the ways, and G is also for the way you're facing. So if I were to move it here and I go back to this way, it's still in the same spot. Well, obviously I moved it up too, but yeah. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to fit it on the front side. So I'll hit G and hit Z. I'll bring it on up here. Now this is just lazily done. Okay, about right there. Go ahead and hit 3 to turn it to its left side or right side. I'm going to hit grab. I'm going to move it on the Y angle. Okay. Now I'm not doing this openly because I'm showing you the other method where you're just using just the grabs and Ys. Otherwise, I can just hit G and just move it myself. But I'd rather use using the vertices so that help you understand it better. Probably get a little better at that too. So I'm going to hit S for scale. I'm going to scale it up. Now this is kind of tricky because it scales upward, but it scales in all angles. So it's scaling on the Z axis, the X and Y axis. We don't necessarily need to scale it on the Z axis, so I'm going to hit S and I'm going to hit Shift Z. And what this does is it locks it out of the Z axis. So it's scaling on the X and Y, but not the Z. If I were to hit scale and Shift Y, it'll scale on the Z and X axis, not on the Y axis. So, and the Y axis is what goes forward and back, okay? So in this case, I'm going to hit scale, and I'm going to hit Shift Z, so it scales in all but the Z axis, which is in height. And I'm just going to bring it to fit a little bit better. Okay. All right. Now, if I zoom out more, the more drastic the scale will be because it all matters by how close you are to the object and how much you put into it. But that's if I want to scale it that way. There's also another term of scaling. You can also scale it in edit mode. And if I hit edit mode, I click on the object, press press A to select all of them. And when you scale now, see where the center point's at? It's going to scale from the center, which is actually what I wanted to do for these hairs, but I also wanted to show you what the other scaling factor does too, as far as scaling on object mode. So normally for hairs, I tend to use edit mode for scaling, just such as this right here, because you don't have to worry about it flying in the air when you press scale. Here, it just scales within itself. So it finds the center of all that you have selected, and it operates from within that center point. There are ways to change out that center point, but we don't need to do that, so there's no point in teaching it right now. At some point or another, you may run into that option. You may have to use it, but not right now. So, when I get scale, I'm going to scale on all the axes this time. Okay, see how it's scaling from that center point? And I'm going to go to press G, and I'm going to freehand move it over just around the ear there, and I want to see what that looks like. Now we may have to do some more tweaking. This is where hairs are a little bit different, because you are eventually going to have to tweak it. Now one thing about Neverwinter Nights 2 is you always want to make sure the hair hangs a little bit above and a little bit out from the neck and the forehead. Reason being is some heads are bigger than others in some cases because of other custom content, so you want to kind of find that happy medium between the vanilla heads and other faces that are created within the game. Now that we've got it correct on this right view, we're going to hit Control 1 on the number pad, okay? And we are going to hit Z so we can kind of see what we're at. And in here, because we have it scaled and that way it's fine, now we're just going to scale it on the X axis, and it's left and right, so that's the width. So we're going to hit S for scale, we're going to hit X to scale only on the X axis and bring it in just a little bit, just enough. We don't have to bring it all the way in. Like I said, you don't want it all the way into the skin because it's safer to be outside it than on the inside because of clipping issues. And you know, we all know Neverwinter Nights 2 has a lot of clipping models, okay? So as you can see, I'm going to go into texture view by going here and clicking texture. The hair sits on it pretty good, right? I mean, for a lot of people that's like, oh, we're done, that's good to go, but we are perfectionists and we must fix this to the best of our perfection. That makes no sense. Okay, Control 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and color this texture in a little bit. And I showed you how to do that in the first one. I'm going to go to UV. I'm just going to create a new map for it by hitting A. It's going to select all the UVs within that head. I'm going to create a new, hit plus, and I'm just going to change this new map to like a, I don't know, maybe like a blue, and hit OK. I'm going to go back into default. There, it makes it easier for me. So that way I can kind of tell what's what, you know, what's popping through and what's not popping through. So as you can see, this is I mean, just as it is right there, it's really good. So this isn't one of those type of hairs where you got to constantly fiddle around with to get a lot done. I can see this is going to be pretty quick, which is a good thing, which is why I chose this hair. So we're going to go back into the hair model. And as you can see, some stuff is not going through, it's cutting through the mesh. So this is where this is what makes it different from doing an actual helmet. Oftentimes, some helmets you have to do this, some helmets you don't. Simply because helmets are meant to fit over the head, so they're meant to override. However, they don't have to conform to the head, whereas a hair model does. A hair model has to conform to the head because it just looks weird if it doesn't. I mean, your hair conforms to your head. When you put a hat on, you pretty much change the dimension of your head in terms of the video game. So, okay. That being said, we are going to start our modeling. Now, to do modeling, we are going to hit Tab and to go into our edit mode. Right down here, you're going to see this little editing mode. It's called proportional editing. We're going to go and turn that on because without that, if we were to click just here and, well, I'm right clicking. Now, if I hold down Shift, I click more. If I hold down Shift and I'm clicking these, what happens is I pull it out, it just pulls it out by itself. You're editing within the actual single vertices themselves, which is not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to turn on, and this is for most things when you're modeling in proportion, when you're modeling in bulk, when you don't have time to tweak a single vertices or two, and not so much time when you just don't, it doesn't require the single vertice touch. So we're going to go here and we're going to click enable, okay? And when we click enable, now that we have this one selected, and this is just an example, we're going to hit G. And when we hit G, everything seems to move with it. That is weird. Actually, it's not. Because I'm going to show you something. If I were to zoom out and I click G again, we have a sphere of influence. Now that sphere of influence controls everything within that sphere pertaining to that vertex that we've selected. So if I were to go in and I hit G, and I were to hit use the middle mouse, zoom in and out, and I just make that sphere of influence smaller. So if I were to move it here, whereas here and here, you see how it's moving based off that one vertex. Now if I were to select more than one vertex, okay, I don't know why it does that by error. So if I were to select more than one vertex, and then I were to hit G, it moves based off that vertex. Now if I select more over here, and I hit G, and I were to make it small, it's only going to see how it moves, basically whatever. So you get used to it. It takes a little practice. It's by far the easiest way to convert any meshes to fit the Neverwinter Nights 2 helmets, heads, arms, legs, toes. I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna hit A, deselect all, and what we are gonna do is we're gonna fix those that are kind of messed up, those that are that aren't showing. And what we have to do to get that done is more likely we're gonna have to go into the head model and turn it off. Okay, well, not so much turn it off. We can actually make it a wireframe right now if we'd like. That way we can see through it, but it wouldn't be wise considering that this head's going to turn into a wireframe as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of go through small parts and then fix this. I'm going to try to be quick with it so that way you're not sitting here staring at me modeling forever. It might be sloppily done, but it's going to get done regardless. So I'm going to click this little one. Luckily we're able to see it here. I'm going to click it right there. I'm going to bring that out so that way it lines up with the rest. I'm going to hit G again and just go ahead and... Now I can hit G or I can hit scale. And scale will make it bigger, but that's not going to help it. Sometimes it takes a little experimenting. Now, if I were to just pull it out, even if I use these right here, the G, that little sphere of influence will still remain active. Okay? So, we can only, because we're looking at it from the front view, I have to turn a little bit by holding Alt and the left button, and then bringing it out a little bit more. Okay? That's pretty much done. I can bring it up a little bit if I like, just to kind of line it up properly. And maybe just a little bit back in. Now, just a little bit of tweaking. It's all to your preference. It's not. It may look weird right here, but when you actually render it, it looks a lot better. Okay. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click here, and I'm going to actually hold Shift and click the other vertices around it. I'm going to disable the head feature for now, or the head, and I'm going to click Shift, Shift, click, Shift, click, Shift, click, Shift, click. Same thing here. Okay, now the reason I'm doing that is because I'd rather move this all as a whole than just one part, because I want to keep it even, then I'll bring it back in where I have to. Okay, so I'm going to pull this on the y-axis, the x-axis. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Hit scale and hit X. Turn up our influence a little bit. Hit X. Okay, look at that. Now that's not cool. I mean, it works, but it's not good, okay? It's the reason why we don't want to hit scale so much. So what we're going to do is hit scale, and on the y-axis, turn down the sphere of influence a little bit, just to kind of bring it out a little bit. See these corners? Maybe that's not the smartest thing. Bear with me here, gentlemen, ladies and gents. So, okay. Let's try selecting the bulk of them. Bringing those out. Maybe turn down the sphere of influence a little bit. Usually when you touch it, you have to press escape to reset it and then touch it again. That's what she said. Okay, so right there, and then let's go and do the same to the other side. Okay, so let's go. Oh, look at me, I had this one chosen still. Okay, and then we're gonna go here, turn off head. Now this looks like it could be time consuming. They're not always like this. Like I said, most of them kind of come on right off the bat, and so they fit like just generally. This is not mandatory either. If you're satisfied with the way it looks just like this, you can say, you know what, I'm calling it, that's it, I want it like that. That's fine. You know, you're the one making the content. It's your choice. You are you are to say so in whatever you create. You know what? Because no one else is doing it. You are. Good on you. Okay. All right. So, but me, for the sake of just getting it done, I'd rather just get it done. So, now that that's done, I'm going to turn off the head again. I'm going to pull these two out, and then let's see, 2 over. I think think it should be these two. Turn on the head, just kind of pull those back a little bit. There we go. Now, I know that looks weird because I didn't touch all of them. So let's go ahead and click this middle one. Let's get all of them out at once. Okay. Now, don't worry, we'll fix this. I know it looks funky, but we'll get it done. I admit I'm not the most professional at this. So now that that's like that, what we can do is select all of them now. And just kind of collapse them in by hitting S. Actually, we don't need these. We don't need these selected either. Okay. Do we have any back here hiding? Yes, you are. Okay, so these now we can collapse a little bit inward by hitting S. Oops, looks like some are selected over here. It does that. Blender, sometimes when you select not in wireframe mode, if I were to select like something here, it'll select stuff elsewhere too. Now, in that case, it didn't because it wants to make it look stupid as if I don't know what I'm talking about. And I think it was successful at that. Okay, so now that that's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit scale, or maybe, you know what, let me try something. Let me rotate this. See how the sphere of influence is touching that bang there? I don't want that doing that. So let me go ahead and rotate it and turn it down some. Then try rotating it. Now there's another option for this too. The other option is you have it enabled for proportional editing. You also have connected. Connected, what that does is even though my sphere's influence is touching here, it's not really, because it only touches based off what's connected immediately to it. Now the more big you go, the more it reaches out and connects and touches those. Example, see how it's not doing that. Don't worry why it's doing that, but it's not touching this bang here. But I'd rather keep it on enable here for proportional editing instead of connected editing. So I'm going to turn it down. I want to tilt this a little bit because it'll make it easier for me to bring it back in. And it's kind of like, let's see. Like I said, we don't want it coming out all the way. Now, this is the part that I do love, is when you're in editing mode, you can kind of see everything through it. And what it allows you to do is when you hold Control and you left click, you get this freehand selector. Okay, I'm going to hit Control, hold down Control. I'm going to press left click, and I'm going to circle around this little backside here, and it's going to select everything on that angle because we're viewing it from the right angle. Everything on that right angle based off where we selected. Now, when I say that, it means we've selected everything, including what's on the other side. So if we were to turn the model, we've selected all of that too, which is what we want to do. And this is why you need to do it in wireframe mode, because if I were to do that in this edit mode, it doesn't select everything. It only selected those two because it's all we can see. When you press A to deselect, Z to go into wireframe. Now when we select in wireframe, it actually selects everything on the back side of it, which is good for a lot of modeling. And the reason why I do this is because now I'm going to show you the trick of getting it actually in there and fixing these little tweaks. Is I'm just going to grab this, I'm going to bring it in, and you want to kind of line it up just a little bit more. Now it does stuff like this, which is no big deal, but at least you're a little bit closer to how you want the hair model. Having this little part stick out is fine, because all we got to do is tweak that now. Make the sphere of influence really small, okay, and just bring that back out. Let's see, yeah, just like that. Bring that back out, just like this one. Just bring that back out, and we're good to go. Maybe this one a little more. Like, now, I'm being a perfectionist. Not all of you have to do this. Like I said, most hairs don't even require this. But hey, if I'm going to teach you one thing, I might as well teach it all. So, okay, now that that's done, let's go and take a look at it. Texture, and that's exactly how it should render in game. Okay, damn. Now that hair does look a little too high, doesn't it? Do you feel like it should come down some? Let's kind of see how it looks in the reference model. Yeah, looks like it's a little high in our head here. So maybe it has to come down, which is kind of going to counterplay against what we just did. But let's see, right above the head, maybe a little more. I don't know, am I crazy? Am I crazy for doing this? Let me see. Don't worry about that right now. We're just trying to find a good setting of the forehead, so maybe just a little bit higher. Or is that where it was at? Let's find out. So we were there. Now we're there. Okay, so let's go back up. Okay. I'm gonna scale it just a little bit. Okay, that's fine. And then I'm gonna scale it just a little bit on the x-axis. Hit scale S and then hit X. Okay. I think that's good. You know what? Since you are doing the tutorial, if you do it better than me, by all means, please send me the file. Okay. So okay, we got this little bad boy here poking through. That's no big deal. Let's fix this bad boy. Yeah, just like that. Looks like we may have some accomplices here. So let's pick you all up. Yeah. Alright. So, and that's just being perfectionist, like I said. Alright. So now that that is done, I hit Control 1, go back to the front view. We're pretty much done. It's from here on out, it's pretty much just like you did the hat, except for weighting, okay? So when we do the weighting, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn off the head for a moment. Okay, and hit C, turn this sideways. Okay, I'm going to go in here. Let's put this in options. Don't worry about what I did there because it's assigned. Okay, in this case, you have to worry because it is a tutorial. I'm going to undo. So this originally, because it was assigned to a different model within Bless Online, it's attached to its own armature. See how it has an armature here, and it's saying that it's attached to this armature, and within it, it has its own weighting. See how it says hair brand 3. So if I were to hit Control Tab and Z to go into this mode, Control Tab, and if you hit Z within weight mode, you go into this wireframe weight mode. And I'm showing you where it's all weighted at in different levels. Now, sometimes you can steal the weights and just rename it to the actual vertex group. It's called vertex groups, by the way, weights. You can assign that vertex group or that weight to just change out the name to like B45. Like here, if I want that to be B45, which I do actually, I'm going to show you how to do that. So, but first, in order to get rid of this armature and to assign it to the human armature in Neverwinter Nights 2, we have to do that within the modifiers panel, and that's this little wrench here. Okay, so we're going to apply the one that it's using now just to get rid of it. So if we put clear, it'll reset its scaling options and everything. This is pretty much saying we're happy with where we moved it. We no longer need you. Bye-bye. And no, we're no longer attached to it. However, you want to keep it inside. When we export it out, it'll delete it on its own. Just don't touch it right now because I found that if you delete the armature, this whole hair will reset back to how it was from the very beginning. I know there's a reason why. I am no professional by all means, so I don't sit there and try to figure it out because I just like, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. Okay, so there's a reason why it's doing that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply a new armature to this one. I'm going to use the HHF skeleton, which is a human female skeleton armature. Go ahead and hit Control C, Control V to copy it into there. Do not click apply because we're going to stick with it. When you click apply, you pretty much say, okay, we're done by. You don't want to say done by because you're going to keep using it every single time you load this armor, this hair, this whatever into the game. So that being said, what we can do is go into our weights. Now we still have weights, but they're not assigned to anything. This weight is assigned to unused hair underscore root. However, that's not a bone within armature. There's no bone called unused whatever root. In armature there is, because that's what it was tied to, but not in this armature. This armature we use numbers. And like I said, like you did the helmet, the one for head and hair and helms is B45. Now, you wouldn't find it out necessarily on your own because there is no B45 in here. It's more of just something you learn along the way. Some things are left out for reason and for purpose. But we are going to assign this instead of just having to re-weight it ourselves, draw the weights in. Why not just steal it? Just rename it to the armature number that correlates with the HHF skeleton. I hope I am not getting too confusing at this point. Okay, so I'm going to press enter. Now the B45, this red part, and whatever is lightly some of this is assigned to the B45, which is the main head. So when the head moves left and right, this is going to move with as much red as this is how much intensity that weight is going to move with that head. Now, as you can see, it gets blue here, which means the head will move, but this won't move as much. Now, that may not be realistic to the Neverwinter Nights 2 engine, but we won't know until we try it out. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and so what I'm going to do for these 3, I'm going to combine them. We're using a modifier. Now, this might be a little advanced. I'm kind of wondering if maybe I shouldn't, simply because it may not work out. It may confuse you a little bit. Or I can draw them on myself. Okay, so let's just draw it on ourselves. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these. Delete, delete, delete. Now, as you can see, these hairs then now have no weights assigned to them, okay? So, I'm going to hit 6, 6, 6. Okay, 4 turns you back this way. 6 turns you to nudge this way until you hit forward. Hitting 4 pulls back that way. 4, 6, 4, 6, 4, 6. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another bone called B45. Now, what B45 does essentially, or B46, I'm sorry, B46 is you have 3 bones. You have B45, you have B46, and B47. Now, the higher the bone number goes, the less weight the hair will have with it. So it's essentially, if you have hair that's going to droop down all the way to the back side of this model, like if the hair were to come down here to the model, okay, essentially you'd want that to be B47. This means that the B45 has less weight on it, and it sways a little more, so it gives it that swaying effect. B46 is about this area. You want to hit B46, okay, B47. And what that does is it pulls more to the ground, gravity. So that way, whenever you move the head, the ground is going to be pulling on the hair somewhat, and it won't move as much. So the head won't have that influence on B47 as so much the ground does. And what that does is that creates that effect of hair swaying when you move around. Whereas some of those armors you've seen in game where the hair is just one stiff model is because they have the hair assigned all the way down here under the B45. Which means all of it is moving with the head, because all of that's red with the head, and it didn't weight it correctly. So you gotta weight it correctly, which means you gotta kind of gradually make it B46 and then B47, okay? In this case, this is B46. It falls within that parameter, so I'm gonna color it all B46. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and turn this a little bit that way, okay? I'm gonna disable this thing so it doesn't get confusing, the armature. And what I wanna do is I'm gonna simply go on B46, okay? I'm gonna hit gradients, weight gradients. Where are we at? And then I'm gonna draw weights coming up just until the edge. Now we'll delete those ones that are showing up because gradient only works a certain way. So just about right there. If I remember correctly, that's when the B45 kind of takes over weight anyway. Yeah. Okay. Let me do this one more time. I'm gonna go to B46. Gotta undo all that. Okay. I'm gonna mark down where it starts turning green, about right there. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and click. Where is it at? Weight gradient. I'm gonna hold down the left mouse and just slide it on up. Okay. And then I'm gonna pull it up here and stop it right there. 1 second.